Hello and welcome to this K-12 music session from JCPS Academics. Feel free to scan the QR code if you'd like to access the slide deck as you follow along. Before we begin, it's my pleasure to welcome you to JCPS Music, a community that values supporting one another, whether listening and answering questions, discussing how to address challenges, or sharing sheet music, instruments, resources, materials, or equipment. We're excited to welcome you as a part of the community. Today's agenda is going to walk through district introductions, a number of things about teaching music in JCPS, and teacher supports. Let's begin. I'm Paul Robinson, your music instructional lead in the district's academics department. I support all areas of music curriculum instruction for grades K through 12. I use he, him pronouns, and am happy to be supporting you here in JCPS. Also in the academics department, we have our Director of Fine Arts and Special Areas, Nate Bordeaux. When it comes to teaching music in JCPS, you first need to be comfortable accessing the JCPS Academics website. You can get there by navigating to jcps.me/academics. Or if you have a district device, you may have access to it by clicking on JCPS Quick Links in the upper left of your browser. Finally, you may be able to access it from the JCPS portal simply by opening a new browser tab on a device from the district. Once on the academics website, you can utilize the buttons on the page by scrolling down to them or the menu on the left. Let's first look at curriculum frameworks. Scrolling down to music and clicking the drop down reveals general music and music ensembles options. Clicking on General Music brings us to the General Music Curriculum Framework landing page. This framework is for all non-ensemble music courses. The top of the framework is a reminder of our journey to success, while the bottom of the framework outlines the phases of a music course. From the middle section of the framework, you have links to select from. Clicking Standards accesses the Kentucky Academic Standards for Visual and Performing Arts. A heads up on that, once you get to the document, you'll need to navigate page 133 for the music section. Another option you have here is the curriculum website, where you can access elementary general music learning targets and pacing, while the high-quality music instruction link is simply an outline of what that looks like in JCPS. While we're here, let's look at the instructional framework. The 4 quadrants on this framework take us through the flow of a general music class, from opening to modeling and mini lessons, to practice and rehearsal, to reflection, sharing, and closure, while each one provides example teacher and student actions and potential routines and procedures. Notice the arrow between quadrant 2 and 3 reflects the natural flow of a music class back and forth between those sections as appropriate for student music concept learning. Back at the academics website's curriculum webpage, clicking on Music Ensembles from the music dropdown brings us to the Music Ensembles Curriculum Framework landing page. This framework is similarly laid out with links to our Kentucky academic standards, ensemble pacing guides, again, the high-quality music instruction, and of course, our music ensemble instructional frameworks, which share the same layout we've already covered. Speaking of instructional frameworks, know that you can also access all of them from the home page of the academics website, right here. Now, when it comes to Journey to Success, our academic innovation team provides the introduction to that. However, I do want to highlight how our music courses are focused on making intentional connections for our content. So back on the academics website here, we'll click on Journey to Success, we will scroll down briefly to resources, then scroll down to find the student reflection prompts. These are linked for elementary, middle, and high. When you click on those, it brings you to sentence stems that are ready for immediate use and are wonderful for helping students consider how doing music supports their future success. All music teachers are highly encouraged to utilize them regularly. Moving along on the slide deck, we'll touch next on the 5 pursuits of Gholdy Muhammad. These 5 pursuits, being identity, skills, intellect, criticality, and joy, serve as a guide for designing teaching and learning in a way that humanizes the learning experience for our students. Going to the next slide of this slide deck, you can see examples related to each pursuit that can be explored to afford students opportunities to express who they are and how they relate to aspects of your music class. Moving on to the Getting Started checklist, you can click the button to make yourself a copy while I access it via my address bar. Once here, you'll find a list of things to consider as you get started with teaching music in JCPS. In addition to the music frameworks we already covered, you'll find a link to our music course codes and descriptions, which is helpful for knowing what the prerequisites are for your courses. Prerequisites are established to ensure students are enrolled in courses that are appropriate in length and suitable for them, promoting the success of all students in the class and preventing costly inventory damage. Here you'll also find a link to request music support from my department. This link is also in my email signature and on our music newsletters. I'll talk more about support later on. Next, you'll find a list of things to consider at the school level. However, I do want to mention a few of them. First, know that music purchasing has changed very recently in the district, so you'll need to be proactive and not plan to fall back on past precedent. For example, become familiar with your instrument inventory. Know what you have and what you need. Purchasing is done at the school level, so you'll need to determine the best way to communicate your needs with your principal so they can consider establishing a budget for you to develop a purchasing plan from with support from your bookkeeper. Second, be proactive in finding out if there's any music-related student programming already scheduled for the year to prevent being surprised and finding out the week of that, for instance, your students were supposed to have something ready to perform for a Veterans Day celebration. Finally, itinerant teachers should seek info from their schools about submitting itinerant travel reimbursement. Looking now at the list of items to develop, one thing I want to say here is that I often see new music teachers who are in challenging situations spinning their wheels while struggling to engage their students. But what I want all our new music teachers to know is that ensemble skills is a real and legitimate skill set that your students may need time during class to work on, even to the point of putting all music aside if needed. The root of ensemble skills is teamwork. So if needed, consider playing games with your students that have nothing to do with music, but everything to do with teamwork, fun and engagement, and shared expectations to provide a foundation upon which you'll build on throughout the year. Back on the slide deck, you should be receiving the music newsletter in your email every few weeks. If not, contact me directly by email so I can fix the problem. For our all-county music festivals, please, please, please give your students the opportunity to participate. We feel like there's at least one student at every school who has what it takes to be in one of our groups, and we want all schools to have representation at our events. So be thinking of any students who you can support and encourage when the information comes out by email. We'll wrap things up now by talking about support. Anytime you need support from myself or Nate, this is the form to complete. It's linked in my email signature and on all music newsletters. There's a few things to know about this. First, the form specifies fine arts and special areas and not specifically music, and it goes to somewhere in my department before it gets a ticket number and gets routed. So the people who route the form won't know whether to route your request to me or my colleagues for visual art, dance, or theater, etc., unless you specify music on the request form. And that way, it can come to me or Nate. If you have a need that is time sensitive, by all means, please email or call us. But otherwise, please do use the form. Also, principals can use that form too. So feel free to share the link with them if it can support your program. In terms of other supports, I have 3 things to share. First, our email lists, which we have set up for each of our groups of teachers. There's one for choir teachers, band teachers, orchestra teachers, and general music teachers. So if any music teacher has something they want to share with their colleagues, they can do that. Or if they need something, like a part they're missing, or an instrument to borrow for a concert, they can use the email list to get connected with other teachers who can help them out. Like I said, it's a great community, so take advantage of it. The second thing to know about other supports is that your school has a support structure. For instance, you have your principals, your bookkeepers. If your principals don't know something, they also have supports. They have assistant superintendents and executive administrators that they can reach out to. They can even reach out to Nate and I. And finally, once you've got your bearings in your classroom, the other support that I'm going to provide is that I'm going to schedule a visit for myself to come visit your classroom to see how I can best support you. I hope this session has been helpful. If you have any questions, just complete the support request, or email or call us if it's time sensitive. But that's it. Have a great day and an incredible school year.